text-to-voice synthesis provided by Vidnami. The Federation. January 12, 2021 by Anna von Reitz. This started out as an explanation for coordinators and has been slightly edited and improved upon for general distribution. Many people continue to be confused and think that the Federation is the federal government, when in fact, the federal government is named after the Federation. The Federation of States was created very early on, September 1776, as a means for the states to act together as one body in international and global jurisdictions. The Federation has no national-level powers at all and is not in itself a sovereign body. The Federation is an agency of the states representing the sovereign bodies of the states of the Union in the foreign international and global jurisdictions. In terms of business structure, the Federation is an unincorporated holding company. What it holds are the international and global powers that each of the states vouchsafed to it for their mutual defense and protection. The Federation is like a bank that holds all the delegated powers of the states, and is then, the delegator of all powers subsequently delegated to the Confederation, and which is also responsible for the later delegations of powers made under the constitutions. When any of the subcontractors or even the Confederation are unable to function, all those powers delegated to them return automatically by operation of law to the Federation that made the delegation of power in the first place. In order to operate in international and global business realms, the Federation had to operate under a recognized sovereign, which is a problem because we were getting rid of sovereigns and because each individual state could not be recognized as a sovereign in international jurisdiction and still have the advantage of mutually shared powers. To get past this obstacle, the founders used the sovereign status of William Belcher, a patriot from Connecticut, who later served as a colonel in the Continental Army. Though his family acquired sovereignty in England as a result of the Norman conquest, William Belcher, like his own forefathers, believed that people should learn to be self-governing. The Great Seals of both the United States and the United States of America are part of the Belcher coat of arms array. As a result, William Belcher and his progeny became yet another safeguard for the new American government, and the hereditary office of head of state passes down to them because, every ship that sails under the Great Seals, meaning all corporations as well as all ships and all commerce taking place worldwide by American vessels. The rats have colluded to escape their obligations owed the Federation and the American states and people by attempting to redefine us all as non-American Commonwealth entities, and they have contrived to unlawfully convert everything and everyone by a process of false registration. That is the topic and issue that we address with the declarations and other paperwork. Following the Civil War, the Belcher family was literally hunted and murdered and slandered by British and Papist interests bent on setting the current system up. They were forced to flee from the East Coast to the West Coast, which was then still a distant frontier. The Great Seals were stolen and were last seen in the possession of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. However, possession by pirates does not change ownership. The Belchers are still the protectors of the Federation on the sea and in the air. The members of the Federation are the states of the Union, and your state assemblies are the embodiment of your states when in session. Thus, the Belchers act to protect the interests of the states and people and keep the Federation alive, howbeit with a skeleton crew, when the states are not in session and they have summoned the states to assemble and take care of business and deal with the mess. It is important to note that Belcher is an anglicized version of Belcher. The family is Norman French, not British, and Belcher is a clan name like MacDonald, so it is proper to think and speak of the Belchers as a clan, and not just a clan chieftain. The actual members of the Federation are the states represented by state assemblies. The Federation continues to hold the mutual powers of all the states. The people gathered to run the Federation's administration come from all over the country and are all volunteers serving at their own risk. Some are related to the Belchers, but many are not. Many are simply Americans who came to help once the banner had been raised. Our functions have been dictated to date by past practice and necessity, all of which are practical matters, such as locating assets that belong to the states and people, which have been purloined by the federal subcontractors, and putting an end to the great fraud. In doing so, we all act under the prudent man fiduciary standard, meaning that we administer all affairs of state with the same standard we would exercise as if the assets and resources belonged to us in a private capacity. We use carriage accounting, not double accrual accounting. We use the calendar year, not the federal fiscal year. As the state assemblies grow and people get up to speed, they will participate as active members of the Federation through their International Business Assembly populated by their state citizens. At the present time, two non-administrative issues have arisen and the state assemblies have been polled by roll call vote to enroll the states formed since 1860, and now, they are being polled again to establish a public law banning the use of patents to establish ownership claims on living people who have received patented DNA or RNA or nano products via vaccinations and other means. This is being done to forestall claims that people vaccinated with patented genetic materials or related nanoproducts are converted into GMOs, genetically modified organisms, that may be owned as products under current laws. In other words, we need to close the loopholes that Bill Gates and others are trying to use to enslave and impose commercial ownership claims on living people, and the states and their federation have the power to do this. And once that is done, we, the Federation and our member states, will consider the issue of punishment for corporations that plot such crimes against humanity in the future. These issues are being addressed directly by roll call votes instead of in any Congress, because a Congress costs money and creates a target, and frankly, judging by the questions we are being asked, people are ready to consider pros and cons of individual issues but are not yet ready to rightly interpret the verbiage of international affairs and take on the responsibilities involved, which will be a learning process. People don't come into this world knowing how to self-govern. When they propose to do so, as we have, we are immediately thrown into a snake pit of entrenched international and corporate interests that have no reason to welcome us, and a great many reasons to undermine us, especially now, because they all owe us money. It is crucial for us to know who we are, know our standing, know our history, know what we are contractually owed, know who owes what to us, and stand together. So long as we know the above, and stay in our own lane, we have an unobstructed pathway forward and can proceed without fear or trepidation. We are the employers. They are the employees. And that is all there is to that. Meantime, we have to educate a great many people, not only in this country, but worldwide. The public law has not been enforced for 2 generations. Our law schools no longer teach it because it has fallen into disuse. The public law fell into disuse because living people have been fraudulently registered and redefined as persons that cannot invoke the public law. This vast illegal, unlawful, and immoral scheme has been planned and executed by agents of the Holy Roman Empire and the Lord Mayor of London's Westminster government, all under colour of law, protestations of emergencies that don't exist, and conditions of constructive fraud. As we declare our correct political status, we come back under the public law and under the protections of the constitutions, much to the consternation of those who have preyed upon and cheated us and impersonated us. Perhaps worse from their point of view, they are exposed as the crooks and faithless men they are. I hope this answers your questions, and feel free to share with all state coordinators and anyone else who cares to ask.